Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. So excited today. I've got cave expert Nicole Ridlen with me. So welcome, Nicole.
Hey, thank you for having me, Michael.
You're my first cave expert.
Ooh, hey.
That's pretty good. I waited because I wanted the best. The others came, and I was like, no, I'm waiting for Nicole. After that.
Oh, man. That's a high bar I've got to meet there.
Yeah, that's no pressure. No pressure. Yeah. So let's start this way, Nicole, because we've got to talk about National Caves and Karst. Is it Karst?
Karst, yeah.
Karst Day. Although I think you're going to make it kind of a week, but
yeah,
you'll extend it a little bit. But we'll hold off on talking about that for just a couple of minutes. Tell me a little bit about yourself and what got you into to caves.
All right. Well, I was actually born in California, but I mostly grew up in Missouri. And when we moved to Missouri,
where in California were you born?
Los Angeles, actually. Hawthorne, specifically.
I love going to Los Angeles. I'm usually out there a few times. I told you my wife works for Live Nation. She's out there like once a month, so I sneak out there with her a few times. I love it, but prefer to live on this end of the country. Just go to visit out there.
I prefer to live in natural spaces with a little more room between me and my neighbors.
Well, Missouri. I mean, that's all outdoors. It's kind of like West Virginia. West Virginia is very open.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time, in Missouri. We moved from urban in the middle of Los Angeles kind of to we have 26 acres. And as a kid, I just wandered in the woods all the time.
A lot of acres, especially as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Played in the creek. And I graduated from a high school where I only had 56 in my graduating class. So it was tiny.
Hey, my dad was like under 20. Of course, that
really?
Yeah, I mean, it was 70 years ago, but he was easily the best athlete in the class, but there was only like 6 guys.
Right. I graduated on the top 10, which felt like really good, but I mean.
See, my class was small, and we were like 160.
Oh, wow.
That's not
Yeah.
crazy big. You know, a lot of classes bigger than that, but yeah, 50 is small.
Yeah.
Where you? So my wife grew up in a really like a smaller town than I did, so her graduating class was probably similar to that. But we went to her high school reunion at some point along the way, and where it was such a small class, she was involved in everything. So she played in like the alumni basketball, alumni softball. She played in the pep band. You know, she was in the parade. It was just like all of it. So I'm assuming you probably did that too.
Oh yeah, I wasn't as much into the sports, but I was in marching band, concert band,
Would you play?
the trumpet.
Yeah, yeah. That's like the staple for marching band. You're either
No, yeah.
drums or trumpet. That's like 90%. My stepkids were in band, and I loved it. I always loved going to the competitions and the half times and all that stuff with that band. I would say band is a sport because it's so physical. You know, you're out there marching a lot. You know, I watched them do that. It's like all year long they're marching just for that little show at the half and then some festivals, which is a lot. I think that's it. You got to be a little bit athletic or at least in shape.
That's true. That's true. And it teaches you a little art too. So you got a little bit of both, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's pretty good. So small town, you know, when I was
Hmm.
growing up, if we came across whatever it was, a cave, a hole in the ground, whatever it is, we're probably going to get in there, which was not the safest way to do things. And I'm guessing you were probably the same way.
Yes, when I was a young adult, me and my friends, there's nothing to do in a small town. You drive on gravel roads, we'd find abandoned houses and explore them, or, it actually started out in an abandoned mine. It was,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
there's a lot of those in Missouri. They're giant room and pillar mines, and it was full of water. So, of course, what did we do? We went and got an inflatable raft and brought it back, and, you know, only two of us could fit in at one time, and there was three of us. So I ended up sitting in the mine alone in the dark for a while she went back to get her friend.
Yeah, no danger there.
No, especially because we were so smart that we used tiki torches for light.
Ooh, that's
Um,
not
didn't
good.
think that through.
It probably seemed smart at the time.
Well, we thought we were like Indiana Jones, we're gonna be really cool. And then I'm sitting there alone in the middle of this mine, on this mountain of rock in the middle of all the water, and I realize the smoke is filling up the whole cave. Well, mine. And I'm like, okay, maybe this wasn't the brightest idea.
Yeah. Maybe just a flashlight or a
Hmm.
lantern.
Something.
So at what point did you say, okay, I'm going to try to be a little safer and get serious about this little endeavor?
So we actually we kept going, and I just really fell in love with exploring caves, and
Yeah.
I wanted to do it right. And so I started doing research, and I found out about the National Speleological Society. And then there were these local chapters that I could meet with there in Missouri. There was the Kansas City area grotto and the Shodo grotto. And
Wait,
so I ended up,
why grotto? Why do they call them that?
it's just what they call them. It's grotto is kind of like a description of a room in a cave. And so that's kind of like you go to a grotto, which is a caving club.
We've got a swimming pool at the house, and we call it the grotto for no
Hey,
reason. We just
it doesn't even have a little cave.
no cave. It's got a little
Okay.
pool house.
Oh, okay.
But that's what we call it. And it's stuck. You know, we started calling it that 20 years ago, and now that's what everybody calls it. I'm like, it really is not a grotto, but okay. It's a nickname.
Hey, it works, right?
Yeah, it works. It works. So yeah, keep going. I interrupted.
Yeah. No, you're fine. So I joined these grottos and started, that's the truth about caves is most caves are privately owned, right? So you don't know where they are unless you know people that know where they are and who to get permission from to go in. So that's really what it started out as. And then I realized there's just so much to caving that relies on learning from other people. And so like I'd go on bioinventory counts where we count bats, and like we go on restoration trips where we clean off people's spray paint from people who went in and destroyed it before. And
I don't know why
Just,
everybody thinks they have to paint everything. And I love
uh,
art, but I'm not big on the let's just mark stuff up. I don't know about that.
everybody seems to, they want to leave evidence that they existed in this world, I guess. And I guess in the old days, that made sense. We didn't have cameras and,
Right.
video. Now we have all this media to keep track of our lives. I think a lot of us document our daily lives on social media, so
Or,
you don't need to put your name anywhere.
yeah, we really don't need to sign everything. I think we're past that. We don't need to carve our initials in anything. We don't really need to do that. There's enough evidence of us being here that we don't necessarily need to leave more.
Exactly. We've evolved past the caveman days, right?
Well, I don't know. Sometimes I think yes. Sometimes I'm like, maybe we got a little ways to go. Have you? Do you like go and explore caves that aren't privately owned that maybe nobody has been in a while? Have you done that in the past?
Oh yeah. I mean, all of them are owned by someone, whether that be a government
Property,
entity
at
or
least, yeah.
private landowner. But I've been in a few caves that are what you'd call virgin caves.
Yeah.
And that's when, the landowner's like, hey, I found a hole on my property. I'm not going in, but you're a caver. Do you want to check it out? Yeah.
Well, have you done that? Have you ever found anything that kind of surprised you, or is it pretty much what you expected?
Every cave's like a fingerprint. No two are the
Yeah.
same. So I've had stuff surprise me where it's like it's so small. You're like, surely this isn't going to open up to be any bigger, but then it just keeps going.
Right.
And I think that's one of those. It's almost like being an astronaut and stepping on the moon. You feel like really special. Like I might be the first human that's ever been in here.
Right. Well, I was kind of thinking, there a few years ago, that story went around social media about the guy in England that, finds the cave system on his property. And then he goes in there and it used to be used by the Knights Templar and had all their stuff in there still. And it was just on his farm.
Just never knew about it.
Yeah.
Surprise.
I guess, it was down there. A lot of it was man-made, but it's like catacombs just on his property. Had no idea. But that's the dream, right? As kids, you're like, I'm going to find treasure or something historical. It's something big. It's kind of Indiana Jones stuff.
Exactly.
So, National Cave and Karst Day, what does that mean? How to get started? What does that mean? Does it signify something, or is it just a day to kind of celebrate the cave system?
Yeah, so June 6th is National Cave and Karst Day. And it started with a few different organizations just to promote awareness about what caves and karst are.
Yeah.
So many people karst is a strange word to many people. And the
Is that
importance.
just a type of cave, or is it something different from a cave?
So karst is actually a type of landscape that forms from water dissolving rock.
Okay.
So, of course, in areas that have a karst landscape, you're going to see caves beneath the surface as well.
So when you're looking for caves, is that what you're looking for? You're looking for those type of formations that you're like, there's probably something underneath it?
Yeah, you might look for a sinkhole or a natural spring where water's coming out. And you have to look for the right kind of rock too, right?
Right.
Not all rocks are going to be conducive to caves.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. And a lot of times you probably look and there's nothing there. Other times you find stuff. I mean, you mentioned kind of being stuck in the dark the first time. Do you have any fears like that? Because like I'm a chicken with heights. I don't like dark. I'm not big on critters or bugs, anything like that. Do you have any of those fears you had to overcome?
I mean, I'm a little scared of heights. I'm not gonna lie. So that's something you have to overcome. I think that's part of the allure of caving too, though. It's not just exploring the unknown. It's pushing yourself beyond your limits to see what you're capable of. So yeah, there's those times your heart's racing. You're like, oh gosh, that's a long ways down. I better not fall. But then when you get past it, you're like, I did it.
Yeah.
It feels
Yeah, it's probably a rush
empowering.
then. Yeah. Yeah. And no claustrophobia?
No claustrophobia. I'm not really scared of tight spaces. Heights, exposure makes me a little uncomfortable. I've hiked a few 14ers and like looking down, you're like, oh, that's a long way down.
You don't look down. Haven't you watched the movies? Never look down.
Oh man. Yeah, don't look down. Just look out. Pretty view.
Yeah, that's it. Just keep looking up. Worry about
Mhm.
down later. Worry about up. So you're the general manager of a cave in Tennessee. What's the cave system?
So I'm the manager of Cumberland Caverns.
Yeah.
We're located right, actually, kind of right between Nashville and Chattanooga. So,
Oh, very nice. Yeah, we were just talking about that. Apparently,
yeah.
Tennessee's got a bunch of caves.
Oh, yeah. Tennessee has over 11,000 known caves. The
Really?
most caves in the entire nation.
That's kind of epic.
Yes.
I mean, that's a lot. Does it have or do they have a lot of wildlife, or is it mostly I'm guessing bats, but anything besides that?
Well, so it might surprise you that bats are only visitors in the cave because everything they eat
Does
is not
surprise me.
inside a cave. So
Yeah, that
a lot
does surprise
of the bats, for example, right now, this time of year, all our bats are living in the trees in the forest.
me. Really?
Uh-huh. So more commonly, what you're going to see in caves are salamanders, crayfish, lots of insects like cave crickets, spiders, centipedes, millipedes,
Not a big
beetles.
fan of the cave crickets. I mean, they basically, if you make any noise, they just kill over dead. But they're so ugly.
They're kind of a little creepy looking. They have really long antenna and legs. So people think they look like a spider. But that's how they get around in the dark. They need those really long antenna to feel.
We used to have a problem with them under our house,
Oh,
where
yeah.
we had the crawl space. And so every spring we have to kind of, do whatever to get rid of them. And eventually after a few years of that, they kind of went away. But yeah, you don't really want to encounter one of those on a counter, in the kitchen, in the dark, even though they're just as scared probably as you are.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty harmless.
You get pretty used to them when you go caving because they're pretty much ubiquitous in many cave systems. I mean, there's been caves I've walked through and, it's just right here and they're just kind of raining down on you.
Oh yeah, I wouldn't like that. I've done that, went under the house and they're just all over the place. You look up and they're everywhere. And I'm like, whoa, this not for me. Calling somebody. So tell me about, I wonder, I'll screw up the name, but the Speleothem?
Speleothem?
Speleothem. What is
Yeah.
that? I think is that like a formation?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Speleothem is the scientific name for cave formation.
Okay.
Speleo means cave, them means deposit. They're cave deposits.
Yeah.
So that's
So
the
is that
easiest
like,
thing.
can that include like the stalagmites, stalactites, that type of stuff? And I'm guessing the drapery looking, some people say it's looks like bacon, that type of stuff.
Yes, exactly. So like stalactites, stalagmites, flowstone, drapery, your baby stalactites are called soda straws, those sort of things.
I've seen those, but I didn't know that's what they were called.
Mm-hmm.
See, that's what I'm guessing, like a good cave tour guide. That's the type of information they would kind of give you as you're walking through.
Absolutely. They want to share what you're seeing, kind of interpret what you're seeing in the cave. Because you can walk through a cave and you're like, okay, it's pretty.
Right.
But you have to have a guide to really give everything meaning.
Yeah. Otherwise, you're just kind of wandering through. And especially, I mean, a little different if you're in a cave that you don't know anything about. But like a show cave where you've got tourists coming through, you kind of need somebody to point that stuff out.
Absolutely.
What makes a system or a cave worthy of being a show cave?
So, the show cave heyday era really began in the early 1900s.
Yeah.
And it's just a cave that's big enough and more beautiful enough that someone could make sense of getting people to pay tickets to go in it,
Yeah.
So generally show caves tend to be the biggest and grandest of the caves in the area. Not always, but they are always beautiful, gorgeous examples of the caves.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. How big is the Cumberland Cave?
So Cumberland Caverns is the largest show cave in Tennessee. We have over 27 miles of passageway.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm guessing the tour does not include all 27 miles.
No. Actually, we have 12 different tour options. And even if you took all 12, you'd see less than 10% of our cave.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with the rest of it? What if we want to see the other 90%?
We keep a lot of the cave, part of giving tours every day, it damages the cave when you're walking in there every day. Your breath, the lint we leave behind.
Does that cause some of the collars and things you see and stuff, just the human traffic going through?
That can, yeah. Just, our presence alone changes things. And so we like to keep most of the cave conserved, because the animals, it's their home. We're just visitors.
Right. Have you encountered like dangerous animal in a cave?
I have not. I've seen a raccoon. In Southwest Missouri, I saw a black vulture once. They were nesting inside a cave.
Yeah, that's not
that was interesting.
particularly great either. When I was younger, I was pretty young, and we still had phone booths. That's how young I was. I remember going to the grocery store and this poor woman being trapped in a phone booth by a vulture that was it wasn't really being aggressive. It just wouldn't move out of the way of the door, and she wasn't coming out.
Oh, they make it they're really kind of harmless for the most part, but they are so scary. They make these weird, dark noises. And one of their defensive mechanisms is they'll regurgitate their latest meal, which if you know what vultures eat, it's pretty gross.
That's pretty gross. Yeah, that's pretty gross. But no bears?
No bears.
Hearing bears, they're somewhere hibernating.
Yeah, they can hibernate in a cave. I've never had the misfortune of finding one. I know there are cavers that have encountered bears, which is
how does that
scary.
go? I'm guessing the bear's probably scared too.
Yeah, and typically if a bear is in there, they're in such a deep state of hibernation, you see them, you turn around. You just right back where you came from.
Yeah, you don't want to go in that one. That one's been clean.
It is pretty rare. I will say it's not very common, but it can happen.
Yeah. I would think that would that'd be something that maybe you'd want to happen once, but only if the bear's really sleepy, just so you'd have the story.
Yes. And hopefully you had a video of it too,
Well, you'd have to take a picture before you got out of there. Don't use a flash.
No.
So if you're wanting to get into the cave business, especially running a cave, what kind of educational requirements do you need for that, or what kind of training do you need for that?
Well, to be fair, since most show caves are privately owned, you don't actually have to have any education. Honestly, I never thought I'd be managing a show cave. My original intention, after getting a business management degree, was like, no, I want something I'm more passionate about. So I went back and studied geology, with the intention of spending my time in academia, just so I could contribute to cave science.
Have you taught any with geology? Did you do any teaching?
I did. I taught at a community college, and of course, during my graduate school years, I was a teaching assistant. I loved that. It's fun to talk about things you're passionate about.
Well, and even the basic geology classes, a lot of people don't think it'll be interesting. It's pretty interesting. I had those classes in college. They're pretty interesting just at the base level.
It really is. I love teaching. Teaching intro to geology is so fun. But you get a lot of people who sign up for it because they're required to take a science class that has a lab, and they think it's going to be tedious. And then they're like, wait, geology does math and it does chemistry? Oh no, what have I gotten myself into?
To be fair, still a little bit easier. Not a lot, but a little bit. I mean, compared to like a physics or a chemistry where you got a lot more math. So if you struggle in one, usually you're picking geology, unless they've got like the equivalent of a high school science class, kind of like a beginner's science. Maybe you take that. But geology, I think, is the one that for non-scientists or people that don't want to go into science, that's the one that's kind of interesting. And you take a lot of times because you have to, but then, that was one of my favorite classes.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah, I mean, because there was enough math that it wasn't easy. Like I was probably a C student in that class, but loved it. I was like, I'm good. As long as I'm passing, I'm good. I don't have to. I figured out, and a lot of people I think will tell you this, when you're in high school, you obsess over your grade point average. College, it doesn't really matter. All that matters is getting through college. And a lot of people have trouble with that, but I'm 54 years old. I've never been asked my grade point average.
Yeah, I don't think anyone asked me my grade point average.
I mean, you've never been to a job interview and they're like, okay, what was your grade point average in college?
They just want to make sure you mastered the material.
That's it. That's all they care about. Yeah, so it's not terrible. So I wanted to ask you about, I had heard that some of these formations can actually tell you a little bit about climate change. Is that true?
Absolutely.
How is that?
First, we got to kind of talk about how like a stalagmite forms, for example. Right? So every time it rains, the water's moving through the dirt and rock above the cave.
Right.
And when it gets to the cave, it has so much mineral from that rock it moved through that it deposits some of the mineral and what other chemistry signature it picked up from the surface. So over time, it's building up layer of layer, drop by drop. Every layer, the time when it precipitated, it's storing chemical information about what was happening on the surface above us.
Well, I guess that's true. Kind of like a tree where you could tell the age, by cutting it. You could look at the rock or the formations and maybe tell something about what was occurring back then.
Exactly. And so for trees, you can go back maybe a few hundred years. For a glacier, you go up to continental glaciers, you might get a few 100,000 years. But in a speleothem, like a stalagmite, you can go back millions of years and you can see the natural trends in climate and what rate of change you would expect, how much rainfall you'll get when it does warm or cool, all those historic data to tell us not only what is a natural cycle, but also what to expect with the current trends happening now.
Oh, that's really interesting. Yeah, like I would not have the discipline to educate myself enough to have a career in that field. But I find it very interesting. I encourage others to do it and then tell me what they found out.
That's why we have so many different scientists, right? We can't all be experts in everything. That's right. Sure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. But I think that's really interesting. So has anybody done that? Is there evidence that some of the issues we're having now are climate change related?
Oh, yeah. So there's quite a few scientists that have started using speleothem records to study different times in our geologic history. And a lot has shown not only what to expect for a specific region as we start warming, but also, maybe the rate of change right now is a little faster than what you would expect in a normal warming trend.
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like in West Virginia, the last 10, 20 years, we've kind of went from 4 seasons to 2. Like we've got a spring and a fall, but they're very short now. Summer and winter kind of extended. And that's not really natural. You're not used to 90-degree days in January. And, we've had some of those the last few years. Or you get the colder days longer into the summer, and that's unusual.
Yeah, and that's a lot
more rain, all that stuff.
A lot of that, there's a difference between weather and climate, where weather is like the change day to day, year to year, and climate is the overall average for a 30-year time span.
Okay.
But the problem is our 30-year average keeps going up.
Right.
And some of the USDA grow zones have changed too recently. They updated, like what plants are hardy in your area. You know how it's like zone 5.
Yeah.
You can
I didn't
plant
know
this.
anybody did that.
Yeah, they just updated that.
I wonder what's hardy in West Virginia.
I don't, those are the plants you can leave out year round. So, if you ever go to Lowe's and you look at that little tag, make sure you get something that won't
My
die.
wife would know. They're all over the house on the inside and outside. So, yeah. Which I kind of like. It's kind of nice. You need plants inside, I think. Makes it
Absolutely.
Makes it homey, but it also probably helps your breathing.
Gives you some oxygen.
Get you a little oxygen in there. So, any advice for people wanting to even if they don't want a career in caves, but wanting to get into exploration?
Well, first, if they want to visit a cave, if they haven't been to a show cave first, that's the easiest way.
Yeah.
You're going to have a tour guide, and
those
it's
are
going to
fun
go
because
on.
they get you excited. Like I remember going to show caves and I always come out and be like, "Oh, I'm going to start doing this," and then I never did. But I'm sure that people get excited and then go into it.
Yeah, some I call it getting bitten by the caving bug, and they really want to start going caving. From there, you want to, just like what I did when I was younger, find your peers, find people that can teach you not only how
That'd
to.
be maybe your grottos.
Yeah, exactly. Find your local grotto. You can go to caves.org and click on it, and it'll even show you the closest grotto. And then you can go to their meetings and learn what caves, and they'll make trips for you. They'll even have lender gear sometimes. And, because it's important not only for your own safety to learn how to cave responsibly, but also to protect the cave itself so that, later on your grandchildren can see the same cave that you saw.
Right. Which is really important. And I know that you and others like you spend a lot of time making sure that the caves are pristine, and stay that way.
Absolutely. We've got to learn from our past mistakes, right?
That's right. Do you ever go in there when you're by yourself and just kind of hang out?
In our cave, it's pretty safe. Along the show cave route, I'll occasionally go in there to check on things. I love being in the cave, because it's just so peaceful. It's one of the few places
that's kind
where
of what I was
turn
thinking.
off.
It'd be a nice place to go and get away for an hour.
No cell signal. You want to get the kids off of those devices, take them to a cave.
Or I guess you got to bring a book if you're wanting to go in there and just hide out for an hour.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to be on your phone.
Nope.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that I love to see. I grew up outdoors. A lot of us did. Kind of pushed outside at dawn. Brought back in about dinner time. You might get a sandwich at lunch, but it's usually out the screen door, that type of thing. So I love seeing people, especially younger people, outdoors doing stuff, because that's part of the problem we're having now is we're all kind of attached to these devices, and I am too. You can't not be as a podcaster. I am, but it's not really good for any of us. The overexposure. We need to be out there actually experiencing things.
We do. It's kind of fun to see these kids come out, because a lot of them have started relating it back to Minecraft. They've learned some of these minerals from Minecraft. So it's really
cool.
Interesting. Like, oh, this is like Minecraft in real life. You're like, yeah, it is.
You mean there's actually a video game that had a positive effect?
Yeah. Well, hopefully it inspires them to put down the video game and see the real life Minecraft, right?
I could see, growing up as a younger person and playing Minecraft all the time, and that leading to a career in the caves. I think that's possible.
Oh yeah.
I can see it because I could see it because I've watched, when the kids were playing, and they're basically building different things, within this world. I don't know. I could see it. I think it could lead to wanting to maybe run a show cave.
Absolutely.
Is there something about caves that most people don't know that you like to tell
them? That even though it's made out of a rock, the cave environment is really sensitive. the animals that live there, they're specially adapted to live in complete darkness, and they don't have natural predators. So when you bring in light, you bring in other, food, drink, you're changing the ecosystem.
Sure.
But even the rocks themselves, there are crystals in some caves, even in parts of our cave, that if you breathe too heavy, the crystals can snap because they're thin as a hair. There's just
How do
some
you
gorgeous
light up
things.
those caves without damaging anything?
So that's the trick, right? As a show cave, you've got to balance um, education outreach, providing a venue
Yeah.
for people to learn about caves in a safe space, with also conserving the cave, which is why we only take tours through 10%. Our cave was heavily explored in the 1800s.
Oh, okay.
So it already had a lot of damage from before there was a better scientific understanding of caves. So most of our tours go through those areas so we can share the history and the natural science, and hopefully inspire future cavers to do so softly.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Softly. Explore softly.
Yes.
So what can someone expect if they come to National Cave and Karst Day at Cumberland Caverns? What can they expect?
So we have quite a few different tours, and we're going to teach you all about caving history, cave conservation. We're going to teach you about those different speleothems and how they form, and get you underground. We do have adventure tours too. So if you want to put on a helmet and a headlamp and get muddy, we've got that too.
That's cool. I know a lot of people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like the crawling around in there. Not for me. I'm fine with the lights on, just walking around. That's fine.
Oh, that's fine. We've got tours for you too. But if anyone wants to be a little more adventurous, we've got that too.
A lot of people love that. It's very like there's always that moment in the tour where they turn the lights out, so you can kind of get a feel for being in actual darkness, and it's very disorienting. Like I could see where you would be lost pretty quick if you
Oh
couldn't
yeah.
see where you're going. You get turned around and just it's scary when they turn the light out, even though they're going to flip it right back on.
It's you know what? If you're scared of the dark, just close your eyes and you won't be
It
scared
does
anymore.
help. Yeah, it does help. Yeah, then you. But that's my moment. They turn the lights out, they turn it back on, and I'm like, I did it.
Yep.
I survived it. I got this cave thing figured out. No problem. Hey man, it's been like 6 seconds. Could you turn that light back on?
Like, oh, we're just gonna leave you in here for a little bit.
That's
You'll
right. Leave in
enjoy.
there. I'm sure you run into people that you'd like to leave in there for a little bit.
Every now and then. I actually had a tour who, you get all sorts on the tours, and these are a lot of public tours. So you have groups of various families, and we had one time where he didn't like the other lady on the tour. He goes, "Can we just leave her in here?" Like, no, that's your wife. You've got to take her with you.
You gotta take her with you. I guess the next group could pick her up. Oh shoot! So if you go into a career in caves, let's say you're running a show cave, is there a position that you can advance to from there?
Oh gosh!
Like if you wanted to move up and just I don't know, go higher in the cave hierarchy, can you do that?
Well, a show cave manager is definitely only one avenue of working in the field of caves.
Yeah. Okay.
You could be a researcher. You could be a scientist that studies, cave microbiology or wildlife, or you can do geology. You can, as far as show cave manager, you just it's a lot of administrative work.
Yeah.
I don't get to do as much caving as I would like
I
to
was going
do.
to say, you're probably not showing people around as much as you'd like. You're stuck with the administrative side.
Oh yeah.
None of
But
us like that side. That's kind of like you advance. Eventually, you're going to get to that side, but none of us really enjoy that. We want to be in the, in the thick of it.
Mm-hmm. So basically my job now is to inspire people so that when they take their tours, they're inspiring people. So it's kind of like a pyramid effect, right? You've got to be excited and passionate and make sure your team has that same passion so that your guests have it. And it just kind of that trickle down effect of everyone loving the cave.
Well, nobody wants a bad tour guide in a cave.
Yeah, I would say, I don't hire people to be tour guides because they're looking for a job.
Yeah.
I hire people that want to be a cave guide. They want to work in the cave because
I like
if you're
that.
not passionate about it, you're not gonna
I mean,
inspire.
that's true with about anything. You know,
Mhm.
that's why you always hear that when you're out looking for a job. You know, do what you love. Find something you love. Not
Mhm.
easy, but that is everybody's goal. Let's find something that we love. You're passionate about. You know, it took me till I was in my late 40s to figure out it was podcasting. I never would have guessed that, when I was 18 trying to get a career started. Never would have thought, podcasting. That's But I think with anything you do, when you find what you're supposed to do, you know it. Like it
Mhm.
just feels different. Even if you don't know anything about it, when you find it, you know it.
Just feels like home, right?
Feels like home.
Mhm.
And that's kind of what you did with caves.
Mhm.
If you
Yeah.
weren't doing the whole thing with the caves, would you be teaching or would you be doing something else?
I would probably be teaching.
Yeah.
I loved teaching geology and also just the research. During my master's thesis work, I got to go to caves in the Bahamas and on the island of
Oh, yeah.
Curacao and, traveling and seeing different caves. And then I kind of enjoy the lab work too, doing geochemistry, digesting samples. I kind of like that stuff. So
Nerd.
if I wasn't here, I'd probably be doing that.
I haven't had anybody call me a podcast nerd yet. I get nerd a lot. But you can be a science nerd.
Yes.
You can be a nerd about anything, I suppose, if you're passionate enough about it.
I think nerd's a compliment. It means you really
Oh, it
like
is now. Like now, it's when I was growing up, not necessarily a compliment. Like
Yeah.
we kind of we had I ran around with a group of athletes that was we were like we weren't good enough to be the stars. So we were like the backup quarterback, the bench players. We were athletes, but maybe just barely. So on the weekends we did all the nerdy stuff. We just didn't tell everybody we were doing that. But now it's cool to be nerdy.
It is cool.
And everybody's nerdy about something.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty
Caves
great.
are my nerdy thing.
That's not
Caves
a bad one. I mean, that's cool. It's I would take that, like I would say that's a cooler profession than the 15 million or so of us that are podcasting. Although I love podcasting. I'm not dissing it. I just think if you say, yeah, I run a cave, that's cool.
It goes back to that.
Than,
It goes back to that thing where, let's say you're sitting on an airplane and you sit next to a stranger like, oh, so what do you do? If you say you're a cave manager, you're going to get a lot of questions. So if you're not having a good day, you've got to make something up real quick. Like, oh, I'm an accountant.
Yeah. Cashier. Work at a bookstore. Yeah, that's true. I didn't think of that because if you're having one of those days where you're not really feeling social,
mm-hmm.
If you open that door, you're going to have to be a little bit social.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I get that.
Most of the time it's great. It's awesome to talk about caves. Every now and then you're just kind of like having one of those days like, man, I had to wake up at 4 a.m. to get on this flight.
So I heard a rumor that you're getting ready to do like an immersive experience.
Oh,
can you
you
tell
heard
us
a
anything
rumor.
about that?
Yes. So we have something brand new that's going to be premiering in just a few weeks. I can't give it all away, but you're actually the first person that I've been able to talk about this with. So are you
I like to be
excited?
first. Unless I'm being called on, then I maybe second. I don't want to wait too long, because then
Yeah.
you get nervous. But maybe second. Let somebody else take the plunge first.
So on our discovery tour, we're going to have a new experience.
Okay.
And towards the back of the cave, it's going to be, you really will only be able to experience it in the cave. There's going to be video and audio and lights, and it's going to use the whole room around you. And the cave's huge. So it's
That's
gonna be,
awesome.
the whole room's gonna come alive and tell the story of Cumberland Caverns. And I am so excited. This has been a long time coming, and I'm really excited to share it with everyone.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is it going to be temporary or is that a permanent edition?
It's gonna be permanent.
Mhm.
And we'll probably, down the road add some more options to it as well.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, it is exciting. So, so I know we need to wrap up, Nicole, but once you get that up and running, will you have some demonstrations or examples of the experience on the website?
absolutely. We'll be sending out videos like a trailer.
Yeah, yeah.
We'll post
That's a
things on our
fun trailer to
socials.
do. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's really cool. So that's coming in a couple of weeks.
Mhm.
National Cave and Karst Day is the 6th, which is Thursday.
Yes,
It's
yes.
coming so fast. I can't believe we're in June already.
I know. It feels like it was just February. I don't know what happened.
I know. Like I remember talking to people on the podcast, and then I look and it's been, 4 or 5 months ago. I was like, I
Mhm.
thought that we just did that. Well, Nicole, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. I'm so interested in what you do. I think it's fascinating. I know there's a ton of people out there that have that little itch, let's say, to explore, and maybe they don't know exactly how to do it. Maybe they don't really want a career. They're looking more for a hobby. Caves could
Mhm.
be it.
Oh yeah, and I hope that people get out and enjoy caves, during this week or for National Cave and Karst Day. There are so many caves out there. They can go to cavern.com to see different show caves in their
Yeah.
area and, just learn about that world beneath your feet because, the sky isn't the limit, so is underground. It keeps going.
Have you, since that first time, have you been on a raft in a cave?
Yes, actually, just a couple weeks ago, I did a 3 trip in a cave that had a river, and so we brought floaties to make it easier to navigate the river inside of it. That ended
Very
up
nice.
being a 14-hour trip. It was
Oh my gosh.
exhausting.
Yeah, that sounds exhausting. I went, my brother celebrated his 50th birthday in Vegas, and we went kayaking,
Nice.
and it took us into a cave system.
Oh.
That it was cool. It was cool. We didn't go way deep into it, but you went in several hundred yards, I'd say, into the little cavern. I'm sure there was ways to get further back in it, but they didn't take us back there. But it was just cool because you get there and you can see once you're in it, you can see the entrance and it's
Mhm.
just light, so you can see that's there, and then you're back in the back, but you're on a kayak floating around. I don't know, it's kind of cool.
And you
That was
kind
the
of
first for me.
enjoy the nice cool weather too, right? You get out of that summer heat and it's naturally air conditioned.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Caves, they're very cool.
Hmm.
They're I think the ones I've been in have been like in the 50s, maybe something like that.
Yes.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, it's chilly. Bring a jacket.
You know what? You say bring a jacket, but when you walk up all those steps, doing all that hiking,
Oh,
you
that's
work up a
true.
sweat. And the 50s feel pretty good when you're
It
working
probably
up a
feel
sweat.
pretty nice then. Yeah, yeah, I didn't think of that. So last thing, Nicole, before I let you go, where can we find you on social media?
Yeah, so Cumberland Caverns, that's our Facebook page.
Hmm.
And cumberlandcaverns.com has links. We're also on Instagram and TikTok.
Yeah.
Um, and we're excited.
Do you do most of the social media? Do you have people do that?
The last few months I've been doing the social media,
Yeah.
but we have other team members that
It's
have done it in
almost
the
a full-time
past.
job, but to do it right,
It is, it
especially
is.
a
It's a lot.
website because it's constant update.
Mhm. Today's business world. You have about 100 different things you've got to manage all at once.
That's a lot. That's a lot. Well, Nicole, thank you so much. Maybe next year you can come back for the next cave day.
Hey, that would be great. Thank you so much for having me, and giving me an excuse to talk about caves for a while.
I'm guessing you don't need much of an excuse.
No, not at all.
All right, Nicole, hold on one second. That was a fun one for me, Nicole Ridlen. Um, Never had a cave expert on before. Thought it would be really interesting. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you're in the Tennessee area, in that kind of 4 or 5 state area we got there, go check out Cumberland Caverns. Especially, you can go anytime, but especially on Thursday, it was National Cave and Karst Day. Maybe something we can check out, kind of feed the explorer in all of us, that type of thing. Now, I thought that was really good. She did a great job kind of explaining the different aspects of a cave. I thought it was really, I always love talking to people that are passionate. Doesn't really matter what the subject is. I love hearing people talk passionately about whatever they enjoy. Maybe not politics, whatever side you're on. I don't think anybody really wants to get into a conversation with somebody about politics. It kind of happens accidentally. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. We definitely don't take that for granted. We're closing in. I mean, we're fast approaching 800 episodes, and you can find all of those audio and video on our website, meistercon.com. It'll also let you know if we're doing anything in studio, if we're going on location, maybe to a cave, if we're covering a convention. Anything we're doing will be on the website, meistercon.com. It's got a great blog from Brett. It's funny, kind of his take on different geeky things. I always enjoy that. That'll be on there. Just, please come and check us out, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Would ask that you please subscribe. Those subscriptions really help us out, and they're free. Doesn't cost you anything. Love to have your subscription. Really appreciate that. Thank you guys so much. Please keep coming back. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. Not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. Those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million. It's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.